Have you ever been so hooked on a game that it is the first thing you think about when you wake up and the last thing you think about before you go to bed? Because that's me right now. Today we are talking about a game that I never intended to make any content about, so I could just play it guilt-free and have fun. And then disaster struck, because I realized this is a cozy game and I am in love with it. And the best thing about this whole thing is that it literally just released on the Nintendo Switch just weeks ago. This game lets you farm, make a home, and explore the universe. Today we are talking about No Man's Sky. And I know what you're thinking, Eeowna, how can this space game possibly be cozy? Hear me out, because honestly, this might be my cozy game of the year. Because this is not just any space game. This is a space game where you can go to a random planet in a random galaxy, feed a random creature you've never seen before, milk it, and then ride it. If this isn't cozy, I don't know what is, honestly. And I'm gonna go one step further and say this is probably the game you can get the most hours of gameplay out of any game on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, even more than Animal Crossing. I just want to quickly point out that today's video is going to have a mix of PC footage and also Nintendo Switch footage. As I said earlier, I never really intended to make a video on this game originally. It was just a game for myself until I absolutely fell in love with it. So I will mostly use the Nintendo Switch footage, but when I'm talking about things that kind of occur later on in the game or progress that I've made, we'll be using the PC footage. But whenever I am using PC footage, I'll put a little thing in the top left corner just to let you know. Now I've given you the spiel, let's get into why I am obsessed with the game. This is literally a never-ending sandbox space game, as the whole world is procedurally generated. There is no end, and right now it costs less than a full-price Nintendo Switch game. And the thing that shocked me the most about the game is even on the Nintendo Switch, their claim about having no loading screens actually remains true. This is quite possibly also one of the best ports I have ever seen on the Nintendo Switch. Its performance, considering the scope of the game, is actually incredible. If No Man's Sky could go and help Disney Dreamlight Valley out, that would be great. Now, if you guys were around in 2016 when the game first came out, you might be thinking, wasn't this the game that got like the most terrible reviews ever at launch? And yes it is. But honestly, the developers really turned the game around since then. And I think what we have now is what they originally planned the game to be. The premise of the game is pretty simple. You literally just need to explore space. Every light you see in the sky is a sun, and each sun is orbited by planets, moons, and asteroids, each of which you can travel to and explore. And due to it being procedurally generated, you will never find the end of space. Every single planet you go to has unique conditions, be it heat, low temperature, radiation, or toxicity, and is filled with plenty of things to explore. Depending on the conditions of the planet, you'll find a different mix of rocks and minerals, some of which coming in really wacky shapes. You can also find plenty of different plants, and some of them will even bite you back. And also a ton of different creatures that come in all different shapes and sizes. If you find a world with water, you even have the depths of the ocean to explore. And despite having nearly 30 hours in the game already, I am still shocked in the best possible way at how stunning and how different every single planet I've been to has been. You also get rewarded for exploring, with money for each new discovery you make on the planets. And you even get a bonus if you discover something rare. I absolutely love the feeling of landing on a new world and knowing that you're going to find something new that you've never seen before. A cool thing I like is each planet kind of has these stones that will teach you one word of an alien language. The more words you learn, the more you understand the aliens that you speak to. And with enough time in the game, eventually, whichever alien you speak to, you'll be able to fully translate and understand everything they have to say. You can also find treasures depending on which worlds you go to. These can include rare metals and minerals, living pearls, which are particularly fun to get in the ocean, and hidden technology. And if you're particularly lucky, you can even find really rare relics, But be warned, those are guarded and you will be attacked if you take them. And honestly, even playing in the standard mode, my time on the worlds have been pretty chill. I've seen such a wide array of different wildlife on each of the planets I've gone to, and I can count on one hand the number who have actually come and attacked me. And most of the time, if you don't want to attack the animals, you can literally just run away. Now, as I mentioned earlier, each planet can have different types of atmospheres and different hazards like high radiation or high temperatures. There's a little meter down in the bottom left that tells you how much oxygen you've got to keep yourself alive and how you're dealing with each hazard. Both of these can easily be refilled with common resources, and although that sounds kind of stressful, I can say in my 30 hours in this game so far, I've literally never found myself without enough resources to stay alive. The only other dangerous things you encounter are storms, but they're honestly pretty easy to get around. If I'm close to my ship, I'll literally just go sit in there. Or you can just dig yourself a little hole and stay in there until the storm's blown over. Now, there are also space pirates to contend with. Generally, when I come across those, I literally just run away, and that's worked pretty well so far. And also, if this resource management and all these hazards don't sound like your sort of thing, don't worry, there's plenty of game modes that will help you out. For example, there's a relax mode that was added recently. This allows you to do the story and all the exploration and just reduces the dangers and the grinds for resources. And if reduced dangers is still not your thing, there's also a creative mode. This allows you to explore and create freely in an almost risk-free environment. And oh my god, do I love that games allow me to do this. The game does have an overarching story that also kind of acts as a tutorial, as the game can definitely feel overwhelming at first. I kind of liken it to the first time I played Minecraft, where you have menus, resources, and you see your little hunger bar depleting and you have no idea what to do at all. It's kind of like that, but thankfully the tutorial system built into the story explains everything at a great pace and in great detail. Even at 30 hours in, the game is still teaching me new things and new mechanics to the game I've never encountered before. The story sees you journey through the universe to learn the true nature of the cosmos. And oh boy, is it a journey. I've genuinely been enjoying the story a lot, as it often takes you to new galaxies and new places where you can either do the story elements or just run off and explore all the new planets you've come across and come back to the story later. The story not only teaches you how to stay alive, but you also learn how to upgrade your ship and your suit, allowing you to withstand harsher climates and do upgrades that allow you to collect rarer resources. The story also gives you some difficult dialogue choices to make. This makes you feel involved in the story and not just feel like a glorified tutorial. I don't really know if the decisions you make in the game affect anything, as I'm not that far yet, but I do like the dialogue choices nonetheless. On top of the story, there's also so much other stuff to do. There's sub-missions that go along the main story missions, and they can take you to cool points of interest as well, like black holes. And then you also have this amazingly cool place to go and visit. This is where you can not only see other players in the wild, but also take part in missions with other people as well, and also events. Also, later on you get an entire freighter, which means you can send that on missions to take care of stuff too. And then let's cover the part that really solidified that this game is in fact cozy. And this is the base building. So I'm going to share my base on the PC instead of the Switch. And don't get me wrong, it is still incredibly basic. But let me show you the kind of things you can do. I am nowhere near unlocking any of the cool stuff for base building, as I'm relatively still pretty early on in the story and haven't got half the resources I need to make some of the cooler stuff. But trust me when I say there are some people out there who have done some crazy builds, as you can literally build your base wherever you want, on whichever planet, underground, in the water, you name it. I've recently just gotten to the point where I've started to unlock actual furniture items. Like I got this big table here, which I am in love with. I recently made the resource glass, which unlocked a load of cool stuff as well, including finally being able to have houseplants. And whilst it is fun to make a base, they're also pretty important. You hire workers who work on your base for you so you can research new items. And you can also make giant storage units where you can store all your extra resources that you can't fit in your bag or on your ship. and I think I'm just about to get there, but you can unlock farming as well. And we all know if a game has farming, then legally it is cozy. I think to me it's this combination of being able to make a home and a base on a planet that you land on, and also explore until your heart's content, is what makes this game truly cozy to me. In a previous game, I talked about how a cozy game to me is something that feels not only relaxing, but also an escape. And this game definitely ticks both of those boxes. There's something so freeing about getting in a ship and literally flying anywhere you want to, landing on a planet and just running around and seeing what you can get up to. And I literally never feel bored in the game. I have about 10 missions that I could pick from right now. And if I didn't feel like doing any of those or exploring, you can build your base. And if you don't want to do that, you can go do missions with other players. And although the graphics on the Nintendo Switch aren't quite the same as they are on my beastie PC, I feel like the experience is still the same. I know I mentioned it earlier, but the Nintendo Switch port is genuinely outstanding. Not only with the graphics and the lack of loading screens, even on something as underpowered as the Switch, but also the controls themselves. When I first started playing this on the PC, I genuinely couldn't understand how they'd make it work with a controller, but somehow not only does it play nicely, it's also surprisingly intuitive. If anything, the loading is more seamless on the Nintendo Switch than it is on my PC because I was flying in and out of the planet and had no stuttering whatsoever on the Switch. Now, is this cozy game beginner friendly? Probably not. If you've only played a few games, I'd say circle back to this when you're a little bit more experienced, as it can genuinely feel really overwhelming. And although it has a great tutorial, I have still found myself needing to Google the occasional thing. And it's one of those cozy games where you sit down to play for an hour and then you blink and like 10 hours has gone by. And the best part of this whole game is the fact that the developers have also said that they're not done with updating it. I don't think I can put into words how much I have fallen in love with the game. It's my go-to at the moment whenever I'm stressed, whenever I have a spare 10 minutes or 2 hours, I always end up playing it. And if you're in the market for a cozy game that's so different from everything else I recommend and play, then this is the game for you. And regardless of whether you follow the story or never engage with it, you are gonna have a great time and see some magnificent sights. Even on the Nintendo Switch, it is such a beautiful game. And despite the fact I've played over 30 hours already in the last couple of weeks, I reckon this game is soon going to become my most played game, both on the Switch and the PC. And if you want to catch the end of a great Nintendo Switch sale, make sure you click here. I'll see you next time. Bye.